Hey, before we start the show, we know that many of you have long work days that are sometimes hard to get by. You can listen to music for a bit, but maybe it's getting a bit repetitive for you. Listen to stories, many of which are narrated by the actual authors through Audible. If you go to audibletrial.com/bytethat, you can get a 30-day free trial and a free audiobook of your choice. Many of them are over 6 hours long, so you can make time fly by while supporting Byte That and benefiting from a great service. That's audibletrial.com/bytethat. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 203rd edition of the Byte That Weekly Wrestling Live podcast, which you can check out on most podcast platforms, including live every single Wednesday night at around 7:15 p.m. Eastern Time at youtube.com/ByteThatCast. We talk about Raw, SmackDown Live. On today's show, per Ryan's request, we will be talking about balls because we got our gray balls of fire impressions. A couple of things happened with Alberto, Del Rio, and Paige, which maybe we'll bring up. If we don't, it's worth mentioning that unfortunately in the world of wrestling, crazy things are happening. And also, we have a little bit more to talk about non-WWE because Fire Pro Wrestling World came out this week. We actually streamed it on the YouTube channel, Keith and myself, and we are hooked on the game. We're going to get Ryan involved very soon. My name is Juan Velez. I am from San Juan, Puerto Rico. Joining me, we got Keith, which I just mentioned a couple of seconds ago.
Hello.
From Canada. We also got Ryan McNulty from Boston, Massachusetts. Guys, it seems like we got yet more wrestling to talk about. And apparently, when you have a pay-per-view that doesn't have a good name, it leads to a decent show, which is a little crazy to think about.
Imagine if Great Balls of Fire sucked. It would just be it would go down in like the Wrestle Crap Hall of Fame, basically.
That is true.
Yeah, and when it turns out that Great Balls of Fire, it had a lot of greatness to it. And because of that, and speaking of greatness, I think it's time to thank some of our Patreon supporters, don't you think, Juan?
Yes, we do, my friend. Who do you got?
Yeah, so this week we'd like to thank our newest Patreon supporter, Mr. True Prince of Pro, as well as Alex Servino, Dominic Diaz, Ashley Hudson, and Nicole Torrado. Thank you, everyone, for your support. If you want to support us, you can head over to patreon.com/bytethat. All the details and sweet perks are all over there, so check that out.
And boy, those perks are sweet.
Yeah, we're working on a lot of stuff. We're going to be planning things for the month of August. The world of wrestling has a lot of recent things. We're going to be talking about WWE now. So before all that, I think we should just get out of the way. So I mentioned the whole Paige and Alberto Del Rio thing. I don't think initially we were actually going to bring it up on the podcast because we brought it up, I think it was a month ago or so. And we said then what's probably going to be ditto now, which is it's a personal situation that honestly sucks, right? Some people talk about Paige, hey, she deserves it. She's living the crazy life. I don't think we should ever look at anybody and just say, hey, you're messing up, so screw you. We should give everybody an opportunity, especially because there's a lot of nasty things. So I'm actually going to bring this over to Mr. McNulty to give us a little bit of context about what's been happening in just the past couple of days.
So the big thing that kind of went down is several days ago at an Orlando airport, essentially there was some sort of altercation between Paige and Del Rio, or Alberto El Patron. And there was a woman who witnessed this, and she kind of gave details. Alberto was taken in for, I believe, domestic violence battery, whatever. And you kind of get different details depending on where you read, whether they threw a drink at someone or Paige threw a drink in his face. But the witness was saying that there was a big argument between the two, and Paige was accusing Alberto as being abusive and ruining her life. And apparently he said some not too nice things about her uncle, who is currently hospitalized. So it just sounds like a huge altercation in public went down. Obviously, the police eventually got involved, and this has caused Paige's family, her brothers in particular, to kind of speak out about their disapproval about this relationship that's been going on for quite a while now. And we've heard her father speak out against them before. It just seems like trouble is never too far behind when these two are involved, and it just seems like it's been bad news for quite a while. So, I think a lot of people are concerned for both of these individuals. Paige is a very young woman who might be in a situation that she kind of got in over her head, and probably should distance herself from this guy if she wants to find some happiness and success in her life, because things aren't going too well. And of course, El Patron, he's currently Global Force Wrestling champion
and was suspended.
And is actually suspended indefinitely until all of this gets resolved. So both Global Force / Impact and WWE both kind of feeling the effects of this, and it's just wild. And you got to think, for the sake of both of them, that they need to just be apart, because it seems to be nothing but trouble.
Exactly. With stuff like this, it's really hard to comment on, because it's on the other side of that imaginary line, because this isn't just sports entertainment. It's real life, and these are real life problems. So it's really hard to sit here as a fan and like judge like, oh, they should do this, they should do that. That's something that I personally don't feel comfortable with. But as they are people that in one point or another have brought happiness into my life with their professional lives, I wish them nothing but the best. And I hope that this ends up being a good story for everyone involved, and that it gets resolved in a way that these people that I watch on television and that I enjoy their content, that can lead to happiness to them, because there's not enough happiness in the world. And I just hope this goes well, guys. Basically, is what I'm getting at.
Yeah, and it seems to be getting really out of hand, and that's the unfortunate thing, where usually things revolving domestic violence and all that stuff, you try to keep it on the down low, some would say. You try to keep it hush. It's like, let the parties involved solve it. But because there's audio clips, there's pictures happening, it seems like it's inevitably going to be a TMZ thing. It's going to be the thing that everybody's keeping track of. And honestly, that sucks. Like, not just for Alberto, Del Rio, and Paige. That happens a lot for celebrities. I think it's easy for us to sit here and, of course, these people are crazy. They should split up. They should do this and that. We get to like lay down in our beds and don't have to worry about people taking pictures of us and tweet things to us. These people constantly get harassed on a weekly basis. Look at any female superstar in the WWE. Go to anybody's Instagram account. Go to Nia Jax, Sasha Banks. Everybody is calling everybody ugly, and that is nothing compared to what they're actually saying or what they would like to sexually do to these people. And initially, it's easy to go look at that and say LOL, but these are human beings, so I'm
a lot
hoping
of pressure
that it gets
being
a lot
in the
better.
limelight.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
it can really mess with somebody's psyche, and especially those who get into it at a very young age. I mean, Paige has been wrestling since she's literally, when her mother was pregnant, she was involved in a match, I guess. So she's
wrestler since day zero. Since day zero.
Yeah. So yeah, down since day zero-ish. So
Get to work on
always
that shirt.
kind of having that spotlight on you, it can certainly mess with you. So for the sake of both of them, you hear all this, it's domestic violence, it's drugs now, it's just, I hope the best for both of these individuals, and I think the best is that they need to get away from each other for a little while or forever.
That would not be a bad idea. That would not be a bad idea. So before we get to the Raw and SmackDown polls, I'd like to talk about balls for a little bit, if that's possible, guys. Because as I mentioned, the pay-per-view took place this past Sunday. Ryan, you actually did a live review on the podcast channel, so everybody can check that out. That type of content will actually be launching soon, possibly during the month of August for audio listeners on the Byte That Plus feed. So we'll give you an update about the launch date of that RSS feed very, very soon. But I'll kick it off by saying that I thought it was an exceptional show. I was not able to watch Brock Lesnar versus Samoa Joe live, and I'm disappointed. I made the crazy prediction that Samoa Joe was possibly going to walk out as the champion. I stood by that throughout the show. I just had the feeling that could possibly happen, but we were treated to a very physical match, and it seems like these guys, I don't know if the wrestlers were motivated at the fact that the pay-per-view name was so bad that they just went, guys, we can't let this get any worse. We got to at least step the plate up. So people will say, man, I can't wait for next year's Balls of Fire because that's going to be even better.
To its namesake and just be balls. It had to be something better than that. And don't worry, you can talk about how great we are about being right about the prediction a little bit later. But a lot of people were very high on this show. I thought it was pretty good. There was nothing to me that I think is going to be, when we get to the year-end awards in December, I don't think there's anything particularly on this show that we're really going to be fighting for. So I thought it was pretty good, but it wasn't quite as special to me as maybe to some others.
I think that's a really good way to describe Great Balls of Fire. It wasn't anything incredible, but it was good. And I think it exceeded the bar going into it because it's a Raw pay-per-view. And let's be honest, expectations are pretty low for a Raw pay-per-view. And I think it exceeded those expectations with most of the matches on the card. My favorite being Roman Reigns versus Braun Strowman, because it was everything I wanted to be. It was two slabs of meat just beating the hell out of each other. But I will take a moment and say I feel very happy that I was wrong about Brock Lesnar and Samoa Joe, and that match ended up being it ended up being more than I expected it to be, and I feel really good about that. Samoa Joe wasn't going to win that match. Everybody that's not crazy knew that, but all that match needed to be was for a second, for a moment, you needed to believe that Samoa Joe had a chance to win that title from Lesnar, and they hit that perfectly. So my hat's off to that match, and that it exceeded my own personal expectations, and I'm very happy about that.
Whereas I'm kind of on the other end of that. Not quite. I agree with you. Joe definitely looked better than a lot of people expected. But I think my expectations were just very, very high for this match, and I was expecting a 5-star classic. And obviously,
you were expecting too much.
I was. I will fully admit my expectations were probably too high.
But I would also say that
match, but it was
the match. Or sorry to cut you off, but I think that you also got the match you wanted, that you were thinking of on that pay-per-view.
It just seemed a little too short.
But it wasn't. That match wasn't Samoa Joe versus Brock Lesnar. That beat out two meatheads beating each other brawl you wanted happened, but it was Braun Strowman versus Roman Reigns. Yeah.
Far too much.
So it was good that Joe looked good. It just wasn't exactly what I wanted, but I think maybe I was unfair with my expectations. So I certainly can't complain. We didn't get a by the numbers Brock Lesnar match, and you know what? 1F5, sure. I'm all for that every once in a while to reestablish the credibility of a finisher, because do we have to keep upping the ante on how many finishers it takes to put somebody away? 1F5 is fine, especially if you tell a good story.
I'm not exactly sold on that for the fact that it was Samoa Joe. The fact that you're building up that Samoa Joe is this destroyer, and then, funnily enough, he was the victim of WWE toning down the finishers thing. I'm completely for WWE toning down the finishers. I just feel like they started with the wrong victim. Like a Dean Ambrose, of course he would lose to 1F5 or something like that. They can tone down
the finishers, but it can't be the guy I like.
No, because I wanted Samoa Joe to win, man.
You're saying right now.
Yeah. All right, I'll just conclude by saying what Keith said is the best thing, which is it was a good Raw pay-per-view. I was watching this and I was not bored. I was tuning in, and when I saw Brock Lesnar versus Samoa Joe the day afterwards, I still cared about it. And I think that's something really good, right? Like, I knew going in the result of the match, but that didn't impact my enjoyment of the match itself. So with that now, we go to the polls because every single week, all you fine folk members of the Byte Club, you can go to Twitter, Byte That Cast, and you can vote. You can let us know what you thought about Raw, what you thought about SmackDown. This week's is quite intriguing. When we first go to Raw, we see that 43% gave it 3 out of 4, stating it was pretty good, followed by 36%, the 2 out of 4 stating it was just okay. When we go to SmackDown now, this week, SmackDown seems to have not done so well. 40% at 2 out of 4, 33% at 3 out of 4. Only 9% gave it great. And I gotta agree. SmackDown had some cool stuff. I enjoyed the fashion files, but I'm biased against that. I always enjoy whatever they do with Breezango. I like the interaction of Maria going, backstage looking for Sami Zayn, and then you get Chad Gable. I've always talked about the fact that WWE needs to be able to interlace things more, right? Like it shouldn't just be these 3 guys over here and these 4 people over there. It's kind of weird.
Jason Jordan, seriously.
Oh yeah,
Seriously.
Jason Jordan. Who's that guy? Pair him up with Ty Dillinger. Just call him American Alpha, and nobody's gonna notice the difference because apparently that's just gone. For 3 weeks in a row, Chad Gable is the star. Jason Jordan missing in action, kind of like Ty Dillinger. What did you guys think overall this week, especially after the Ball show? Did you think that going in Raw was you were more excited for Raw than we usually would? Or did you think that
choice
it was,
of words there?
Man, this is the last week we get to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get all the ball puns
Soak it
out
in,
of the way.
because
Yeah,
we got a year until we're
soak
going
those
back to
balls,
this well.
man. Soak them up. All right, so Raw definitely won this week, and I think Raw would have gotten a more positive rating had people been able to answer after the fact, after watching SmackDown, because SmackDown, man, this was an episode where I felt like they really phoned it in, which is not typical of SmackDown. So that was definitely disappointing. Whereas I feel like Raw is definitely trying to actually get people intrigued. I mean, they ended with a cliffhanger type ending with Kurt Angle. The Universal title scenario, that segment was really great. A lot of intensity. So it feels like the wheels are spinning on Raw, and SmackDown's kind of treading water, and they got the pay-per-view in 2 weeks. So what the hell's up with that, right?
I think that one of the things that we're going to get to is the championship itself. I think SmackDown is the victim now of I mean, we'll get to the whole AJ thing, right? But the fact that AJ Styles won the U.S. Championship at a house show, Madison Square Garden, I know it's a big deal, but then people almost forgot, hey, you do have a main champion on SmackDown. I think his name is Jinder Mahal. I think that speaks for the show, that maybe having this traditional heel, he will get boos, but that doesn't mean he'll get you invested into the overall show. Because it seems like people at this point with SmackDown are just like, we get it. He's the bad guy, anti-America. That's your thing. Like, what else do you have to bring? Oh, you got the Punjabi match, but we already know that. So we have 2 weeks of nothing basically in between.
It's starting to be a friendly reminder that champions make titles, and not that titles make champions. Like if you are a good champion, the title will feel awesome. And I'm still all for this Jinder Mahal being champion thing, but it does feel a little tread watery right now on SmackDown. And I think that does end up translating to the rest of the show itself, because my one big knock on SmackDown this week versus Raw is, like Ryan said, it felt like SmackDown was at a standstill while things actually happened on Raw. Like, if you look at the show itself, they were pretty similar if you take away that fact. But Raw just having that little bit of an edge, I think, made it the better show this week.
Yeah, I'll have to agree. And let's actually jump to one of the main topics that we do have this week, and that's Roman Reigns. So Roman Reigns was not on the winning end of the Great Balls of Fire. So, of course, Next week, we have a number one contenders match against the two people that lost to Great Balls of Fire. Because Ryan, I'm warming up the seat for you, buddy.
Thank
I know you're getting ready for this. Any longtime listener, you could probably listen to an old episode of Ryan's rant for this. Copy paste. It'll make a lot of sense. Roman Reigns tries to murder somebody. He gets rewarded with a number one contender opportunity, not the actual number one contender spot. Ryan, go. I just feel I should stop talking now.
Yeah.
All right. So
I'm just going to take a step back.
I'm actually gonna let the murder thing go. And that might surprise a lot of you. Because you know what? I read a few people's opinions on the internets, and it kind of turned my mind it kind of opened my mind, where we can look at Braun Strowman tipping over the ambulance with Reigns in it, and nothing really happened to Strowman about that either. You could call that attempted murder, possibly. And you know what? Okay, maybe Reigns is just getting even. So I'm willing to forgive that. So we can forgive the murder. But obviously, Kurt Angle looked pretty shocked about it at Great Balls of Fire. And Roman Reigns also lost the freaking ambulance match. And yet, as pissed off as Kurt Angle is, and the fact that he lost the match, he's like, you know what? How dare you even come out here? But here's a number one contenders match. And Joe, you lost. Have a number one contenders match. It's like Bray Wyatt beat Seth Rollins. Where's his title match? Or Braun Strowman, I know he's like,
it's in Who
he's a
Cares
wounded animal off
where.
in the woods right now. But, you know, give him a call. Maybe he'll answer. You send him a text message. Maybe he's up for a number one contenders match next week.
Out of data.
It's just really, yeah. He gets no service out in his cave.
T-Mobile.
Yeah, seriously. Trust me. Anything like a stone wall, you're screwed with T-Mobile.
I know firsthand.
Yeah, but it's cheap, and I get unlimited everything. So, you know, call me for that sponsorship. Yeah, it's just let's reward people who actually win matches. Just have Roman win. Just have Roman win and kill him if you want to have the freaking number one contenders match. That's all I'm saying.
I do love how the past month, it's been you two guys. No, the past 2 months, it's been you guys just saying, just give him the goddamn title. WWE, for the love of God, make him the champion at this point.
Make it happen, because we live in a world where Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar needs to happen in some way, shape, or form. And then we can move on from that, because you're putting it on us, but look at our conversations since WrestleMania, basically, where there's always this giant asterisk on Raw of, but Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar, where we're talking about the title scene, but it eventually has to lead to there. So let's just get it over with.
And you know what sucks? Is I thought they were going to do it, but next week, they're damn
pulling
well,
it back.
Braun Strowman's interfering in that number one contender match. Then it becomes like a fatal four-way or something, and not Roman Reigns. Like, Roman Reigns doesn't win that match. Somebody else wins the title or whatever. If Lesnar retains, it means we're still doomed at Mania, right? But if somebody else wins that match, like Joe or Braun, that may be leading to WrestleMania. Reigns versus Lesnar, but no title involved, which helps. That doesn't hold up everybody else, so that could be a better scenario. But if they do the Fatal 4-Way and Brock retains anyway, we're screwed.
Yeah, I agree with the whole Fatal 4-Way thing. I would bet money that Braun Strowman shows up during that match next week, but I see a scenario coming out of it where Roman Reigns pins not Brock Lesnar, and then Roman is the champ going into Mania.
If anybody but Lesnar wins that match, I am happy. Because that means the destiny for WrestleMania has shifted, and the entire Raw roster is not held up on that one storyline.
But I disagree there, because I think we're still going towards that, but champion and contender get flipped.
This is easily the dumbest and most insane conversation we have ever had. Just think about this. We are complaining about WWE not doing the match we don't want to have, because we're basically stating we don't want to have Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar happen. make it happen already so we get it out of the way. But no, now you're extending it with other matches that
But
we
I'm
would like
okay
to
with it
have,
happening.
but we don't care about them because they're inevitably
we've
going to
been
end
there,
to Reigns
right?
versus
We
Lesnar.
did this. We did this with CM Punk in The Rock, in 2013 or whatever year it was. And I don't think we want that again, where we knew, okay, CM Punk's just keeping the title warm until The Rock wins it and then faces John Cena at WrestleMania. Now it's Brock Lesnar just keeping the title warm until Roman Reigns beats him, is the first guy to pin him in forever, except for Goldberg, who's like this exception. And there you go.
Okay,
so
then
we
what
don't
about
want to just be
this?
held up for months like we were before, because that year kind of sucked, and that WrestleMania kind of sucked, and I went there live, and
Me too.
it still sucked.
It wasn't fun.
Okay. What about this then? Say we do get, because it does seem at this point, like if it's not Lesnar versus Reigns at SummerSlam, it's going to be at WrestleMania. Like I don't think there's any other pay-per-view where they would do that, right?
Agreed.
So if that is the scenario where that's not the match, does Samoa Joe become champion within the next 4 months as a way to sort of extend this? Because even you just said it now, Ryan, that match doesn't need to happen for the championship. I think if you remove the championship, everybody cares about it because the match itself is not the problem. Lesnar Reigns was awesome the last time it happened. So do you see that happening where the Destroyer becomes the champion?
I think it's a possibility is a way to like extend things out. Like if that inevitable match does happen at WrestleMania, if somebody like Samoa Joe pins Roman Reigns as an example, or Braun Strowman, it gives them something. It basically gives the title something to do until WrestleMania. And I think it would be cool. I could realistically, I could see Samoa Joe coming out of that match as champion as well, and it would be really cool if Samoa Joe became champion.
Yeah, if it does go to a fatal four-way, I honestly believe any four of them could win that match. I could see any of them as Universal Champions. So it actually would be a pretty damn exciting match because there's not one person that you don't believe couldn't do it. I could see any single one of them with that title.
And God,
Same.
just the people. Imagine that match. Like it's just. I talked about two meatheads beating the hell out of each other at Great Balls of Fire. That would just be four corners of slabs of steak just beating the hell out of each other. And I'm very into that.
Are you
match.
hungry, Keith?
I'm very hungry.
So let's talk about the Hardy Boys then, shall we? Because I feel like if you're this hungry and you don't eat,
Then
you're
go
gonna get a
eat
little
at-
broken.
Go eat at Hardee's. That's a restaurant.
I know. I'm getting
All right.
over that. It feels like you two are getting lamer, and I'm actually dropping the references. Sam and Dean. Okay, I got my reference in. So let's actually talk about the Hardy Boys. The Hardy Boys, man, they are the biggest teases in wrestling history, or at least in the past 5 years, because it is insane how in Raw they managed to somehow be the broken characters without being the broken characters, because that promo was not even teasing or referencing the characters. The way they were talking and everything they were saying, those are all direct lines from promos that they did back in TNA, back in the YouTube videos and all that stuff. And it does seem, and I'm saying this slowly because it seems like every time we bring this up, they pull it back, that we are finally getting there.
I don't think
'Cause
we are.
I don't
Yeah.
get.
Oh, come
Yeah.
on.
I really don't think we are yet. There's still legal battles going on, and they're just dropping hints, and they're doing it in a very clever way. They're doing
That
it in
they
a way
are.
that essentially everybody knows what they're talking about, but they're also saying it within a context that they can't get sued,
Yeah,
because it's in the context of the promo.
I just think they're having fun with it. Like they're just, it's a verbal like nod and a shrug to especially when Jeff Hardy's like, should we classify ourselves as obsolete? And like, okay, I see what you're doing here, Jeff. It's a way for them to have fun with it and not get sued. And the people know exactly what they're talking about. So they it's almost like they get the best of every possible
They're
scenario because
having
they can
a little bit of cake and eating it too.
that they are, and they can still be the WWE Hardy Boys at the same time. They're not shoehorning Take a Drink themselves into those broken gimmicks. And I like where the Hardys are at right now, especially if they're like going into a feud with the Revival and maybe even the Club. It's kind of cool to see these Hardys not in the title picture, where maybe they can expand their character a little bit and try new things and maybe just keep. I don't think at this point, I don't think they should ever go broken, but they should just keep teasing it, just keep tickling the taint a little bit, and just keep that
Right.
rolling.
Wow. So who's left for Sheamus and Cesaro? As kind of a quick question, are there any other like good guy? Are there any good guy tag
Heath
teams left?
Slater and Rhino.
Heath Slater and
Slater,
Rhino.
baby. No, that's really it.
Boy, oh boy.
This is where you consider either creating a new tag team, like
Ambrose and Rollins.
Yeah,
Get to it.
you know what? That would kind of work because based on the rest of the scenes that are happening, you got the Miz in this corner, you got Lesnar in this other one. Rollins and Dean are completely out of the picture, so that would actually not be bad.
Well, they seem to be gearing up to feud with the Miz Taraj, though. So,
but
Yeah,
even then, it's still on the group level.
yeah, they could eventually move on to Sheamus and Cesaro, but other than that, I really can't think of a team unless they're trying to involve all these teams and it's some big, SummerSlam
Tag team
4-team deal.
turmoil or something. Yeah. The closing thing I wanted to mention about the Hardys is that I don't think we're gonna get the Broken Hardys or WWE Hardys. I think that they're creating a new Hardy. Because I guarantee you, there's a lot of people in the crowd at this point that do the delete chant and have no idea what that is. But they've been seeing it played out since WrestleMania, and it's the cool thing to do. So I'm doing it because everybody else in the arena is doing it. So they're basically removing removing the toxic that is TNA and all the things that maybe WWE doesn't want to reference. Because the thing is, like, guys like Samoa Joe maybe were in TNA, but the Broken Hardys, if you go on YouTube, you're getting TNA. You're undoubtedly going to be showcasing the other company, even if it's now Global Force Wrestling. So this is their way of creating their own iteration where they're not broken, but they love to mess with people. So if they go about doing that, I honestly don't really have a problem with that.
they'll find middle ground. We'll see like slightly fractured Matt Hardy sometime soon.
The one thing I want to bring up now, and I feel bad for these guys because every week it seems like we're almost about to talk about the Truth and Goldust, and they get bumped off. We're like Matt Damon and Jimmy Kimmel, man. We're bringing that back. And it's happening. They had a match. They've had promos for seemingly the past month or so on Raw. All these video packages, character development. There's a helicopter going by, so I guess they're looking for somebody. Hopefully they find that person doesn't kill me. But how do you guys feel about this? It seems like it's the feud that they're giving a lot of character investment to, but not a lot of people are caring. Or is that just me?
Well, I mean, geez, when you book a team so strong for so long and then they break up, you'd expect everyone to care, right? I think it really just comes down to is they barely had a journey. And then when you get to the destination of a breakup, it's hard for people to be invested because, the Golden Truth was around for a while, but how much of it do we actually see? It was more like they were kind of a house show tag team that got a couple matches sporadically. So I just think because it was this lower card act that barely got TV time while it was a thing, when the feud happens, why are we supposed to care if we never really truly got that investment in the first place? So even though they are putting in effort, it was just because we weren't, we didn't have that investment for the journey of it to care about where they're going now.
Yeah, and I don't know, like this is personally, but the characters involved in it didn't really set the world on fire, in my opinion. Like R-Truth was kind of like, hey, remember me, little Jimmy, I'm crazy, and that was all right. And then Goldust was being Goldust in a world where you have The Miz on Raw, who is a better Hollywood character, and you have the Fashion Files on SmackDown, who are a better like kooky, zany, like studio, like basically a fun setup more than Goldust could be with the whole movie thing. Yeah, you have a world where on both shows there is a better Goldust than Goldust himself, so it's hard to really care about that. And I do think that this feud fell flat because of it, and it is a little unfortunate.
It is very unfortunate, and the thing is, where's the payoff? I think that the reason that people don't care about this is for the same reason we're talking about Lesnar and Reigns. Where is it going to go? Like, Does this mean that the winner of this whole whatever the hell's happening, is that young up-and-comer going to get a title opportunity? Is that young up-and-comer going to get a new tag team partner? Because, Goldust and R-Truth ain't getting any younger, so it's cool. But it seems like it's too little too late. They had something going at the beginning, but they stretched it to the point where people just stopped caring, and then they turn on each other, and then here we are. It seems like something should have happened with the club. I think those 4 guys together could have created something really cool and entertaining. Instead, they really decided to do a lot of nothing, and that's how we got to this. And now we're gonna get okay. If the two of you had to be Tyler Breeze and Fandango, who would you guys say who's who? Come on, let's go for it. I'm neither one. I don't exist right now.
I
I'll
would
choose for
probably
you.
be Fandango, and Ryan would be Breeze.
Sure.
That's
okay.
That's what I'm feeling about this.
The reason that I'm asking is that we're now going to be talking about Kurt Angle, because it seems like Kurt Angle's hiding something. I thought this whole Corey Graves thing was finally to an end, right? With the whole big cast thing. But then he gets another phone call, which, first of all, the disrespect is real. You're live on national television. You got 3 million people watching you.
Be a professional, Corey Graves.
You could at least put the phone on silent, put it down, or don't even answer. You can answer it later. But no, we got Kurt Angle and Corey Graves saying, did you get the same message that I did or the same call? And it seems like next week, Kurt Angle is going to be revealing somebody because he was talking to a person stating, I love you. So then, in the same context, we'll get to this later, we just saw WWE 24, the Kurt Angle Homecoming one, which was incredible, right? And Dixie Carter's in that. I don't think he would say, I love you to Stephanie McMahon. I don't think he would say that to him. I don't know if they're going to bring back Shermell. And we're going to relive that storyline.
Oh, God. I honestly, in my heart...
blank.
Yeah, we won't go there.
No.
We're not going there, but yeah. I hope... every fiber of my being hopes it's Dixie Carter next week. I want it to be that so bad. And that's how they bring Dixie into the WWE. That's Eric Bischoff showing up on Raw levels of oh my God, this just happened. And I want it to be that so bad. So bad.
But it will not be. Bad. By the way, shout out to Zarafi in chat. I am definitely Tyler Breeze. I sang the damn theme song. I forgot about that.
Oh my god.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. It can't be any other way.
Yeah, regarding Kurt Angle, it is 100% okay. I will guarantee without any penalty that it will not be Dixie Carter. It will 100% not be Dixie Carter.
So bad.
If they do that, they will have to acknowledge that TNA is something.
But they already do.
She's not even part of it anymore. She's not even part of it anymore.
I know they had to acknowledge it in the Kurt Angle special, but I don't think on Monday Night Raw do they want to admit TNA basically exists. So I 100% don't think that they basically justify that Dixie Carter was something if they bring her on TV, and that when WCW was actually a force that beat them at one point, right? TNA was never even close to beating WWE in competition. I don't think that all they do is they elevate TNA by bringing her on, which is something I don't think they would do. So I think it's Stephanie McMahon.
No,
because you know what?
No.
I don't want it to be. I honestly don't want it to be, but it will 100% is. Just look at the setup, right? We're heading into SummerSlam. Kurt Angle's going to get his first match back. And guess who gets that first match back? Guess who gets that first match? The guy who gets whatever match he wants. The guy who got the match with Sting first before anybody else. It's going to be Triple H. And they're going to involve Stephanie McMahon. There is some sort of history there. And it's happening, folks.
Delete.
No question. I don't want this. I want to see Kurt Angle, man. There's so many dream matches out there. And who's he going to face? A guy he fought in the Attitude Era. Because, come on, folks. Let's just rehash that.
You know, even though I'm pretty sure you're right, even though my heart doesn't want it to be, I would like to present this counterpoint. Let's go back into let's go back to last week. There was a rap battle. What did they bring up there? That is my point for now and forever, as nothing is off the table.
Where
nothing
nothing
is off the table in WWE. If they're going to bring that up, I'm sure they can make a mention of TNA.
Okay. What about this?
Your somewhat competitor.
Yeah, but TNA is gone.
Okay,
the same way WCW was.
Let's look at.
I want it to be Dixie Carter.
Other positives.
Dude,
God
nobody
damn
liked
it,
heel
Keith.
Dixie.
God
Why do you
damn
want
it,
it to be
Keith.
Dixie Carter?
Because it would be so good. Oh my God, it
Keith,
would be
I will
amazing.
super kick you
Nobody
in the
liked
ass.
Dixie Carter as an on-screen personality. I don't know why you're asking for this.
Okay, is it a female though? Because I'm just gonna say, because we'll get to WWE 24. He did state on multiple occasions that Vince and him said to each other, "I love you," because Vince was like a father figure to him. Now, it does seem like it would be more of a feminine role based on what he said, but keep in mind we've had swerves where it turns out to be Hornswoggle, so it could totally be WWE doing a bait and switch where everybody's thinking Stephanie, Vince McMahon comes out. It still begs the question, like, okay, so what happens here, right? But is there anything else? Like, we got Dixie, we got Stephanie, we got Vince. Is there anybody else on the table that we should maybe be bringing up?
Could be his wife. I mean,
it could be Linda. That would be weird.
No, I mean, it could be Kurt Angle's wife. It could be Linda, but I highly doubt it.
I don't think it's his wife because of the whole, like, I could lose my family for this, but if you're implying what I believe you're implying, I think that would be a very interesting way to take it, that maybe it's a relationship based, but it's not a relationship between Kurt Angle and a woman.
It's not a romantic relationship.
Yeah. I mean, I said I love you, Keith, and I just said I would super kick you in the ass.
Involved with.
That'd be interesting. But that whole, like, I could lose my family for
would
this.
Be hilarious.
That would be
just Booker T flips out at the announcer's table. That would be the most hilarious thing
Shucky
ever.
ducky quack quack boggle.
That would be so good. Like, he just freaks out on Corey Graves. Like, I've been sitting beside you for weeks, and you've known this, and you haven't said anything to me. Oh, that would be great.
So the official list, and we'll leave it for next week, is Stephanie McMahon, Dixie Carter, Vince McMahon, Simon Dean, and Shermel.
All right.
Those 5 people.
It's more than 4 options. How are we supposed to put a poll up for that?
We'll have to cut out Vince McMahon for Simon Dean, man.
Yeah, clearly.
So now let's move on to something big that happened on SmackDown Live. As I mentioned a little earlier, AJ Styles is the new U.S. champion, which is a little weird to think about. This happened on the Madison Square Garden show. Actually, I had the pleasure of going to one of these during my honeymoon. They're like these super special, non-televised shows. I feel like for context, we should always mention the reason that WWE does not do televised events on the Madison Square Garden arena is because per contract there, you need to contract the actual Madison Square Garden staff. So WWE has to spend a lot more money because they can't bring in their local crew. So in order to be able to do this, they just do non-televised events. And apparently,
#stubborn Vince.
Yeah, but hey, it's not our money, right? It probably cost a pretty penny to do something like that. So I guess that attendance was apparently down. These shows were not sold out. So this is being used as a strategy, much like Jinder Mahal in a way, for the WWE Championship to attract people to know that, hey, if there's a show at Madison Square Garden, if you notice, AJ said it on multiple occasions, if there's a show at MSG, then something big may happen. So you definitely want to buy a ticket for the next show. Now, what it really ends up being is that AJ Styles is the new champion, and not just that, but on SmackDown, it almost felt like AJ is the new WWE champion. It did not feel like he was the secondary champion, like there was another champion on the show. Jinder Mahal's just part of it, and everybody took notice because I saw so many tweets just saying, it feels like AJ's the brand new champion. He's talking about the U.S. Open Challenge coming back. You have John Cena being involved in there. You have Kevin Owens being involved in there. Everybody that you care about on the SmackDown roster is on the technically secondary championship. Even ESPN. I believe, put out an article talking about the fact that the U.S. Championship is more important than the WWE one. So it's almost like we're back to when CM Punk was the World Heavyweight Champion on SmackDown, and they did not treat that as a real championship at all. Like, he got beat by The Undertaker, I believe, after a while or something like that. What do you guys feel about this, where it's AJ's the new champion, but it feels like he's the champion because he's the face that runs the place again?
It's certainly, perception is reality, and that perception can constantly shift. That's the thing. At the end of the day, when you look back in 50 years, what is going to be the more prestigious title? The answer is the WWE Championship. But what title feels like the title is always going to be shifting. In the early years of the first brand split, the World Heavyweight title felt bigger than the WWE title for a while. That felt like the title, and things change all the time. So right now, because of the players involved, the U.S. Championship certainly does feel like the main title. And the WWE Championship is in a really stale environment. Now, I actually am a fan of Jinder Mahal. I like what they've done with his, presentation. I think his character is way too one-dimensional, and they have him cutting the same promos every single week, and there's just no variety, and he's been held up against Randy Orton for a third match. I think that third match was a huge mistake because we really needed something fresh after 2 matches with Randy Orton.
You mean the Punjabi prison ain't doing it for you?
I know they're doing Punjabi prison, but I think it's not only is Jinder trying to establish himself as a main eventer, but people don't stay excited for Randy Orton very long. He's kind of easy to grow tired of. And then, he'll kind of step away for a little while, then he comes back and people get excited about him again. But I don't think anyone is excited to see Randy Orton in the main title scene as long as he has. Jinder Mahal versus AJ Styles, you know what? I'm game for something like that. But right now, when it's just been Randy Orton and a feud that has had really no variety to it after that first initial build-up to Backlash, they just haven't done anything. It's just one guy, Jinder Mahal speaks one week, Randy Orton speaks the next. They don't really say anything different. They don't do anything cool. The feud's just been super uninteresting for 2 months now, so it's easy to see why no one cares about it. And then you got AJ Styles, Kevin Owens, now John Cena jumping into the mix for the U.S. title scene. AJ's challenging, or Kevin Owens was challenging newcomers like Chad Gable, and then you had AJ and Chad Gable. It's like they made things really exciting. So right now, the U.S. title scene is way more important and way more exciting. And, I don't think it's going to stay that way forever, but it certainly isn't helping when you have a new guy as WWE champion. You're not really doing him any favors by not having him in something that feels really important. It's only kind of compounding the issue of not making Jinder feel legitimate, which is something you should have been putting a lot of effort into doing. They did a good job with JBL and making him feel legitimate. He feuds with Eddie Guerrero, Big Show, Undertaker, a lot of key players that helped establish him. And Randy Orton for 3 months is not the answer for establishing Jinder.
Well, even beyond 3 months, I think that this problem falls 100% at the feet of Randy Orton, because it's easy to forget, but Randy Orton has been in the WWE title picture since the Royal Rumble this year. That was January. They need somebody new in that title picture. So you almost have the remnants of the Bray Wyatt feud almost hindering Jinder down a little bit because of it. And because this U.S. title picture is fresh, it's got AJ Styles, you had Kevin Owens beforehand, and even going from the feud on Raw between Kevin Owens and Chris Jericho, that was exciting as well. That built the momentum towards this title match as well. But with all of that being said, it is 100% perception. Yes, it felt that way this week, but next week we might be having the exact opposite conversation if something exciting happens in the WWE title picture. It's something that does change week to week, because going back to the original Randy Orton versus Bray Wyatt feud, there was a couple of weeks there where the WWE Championship was the most exciting feud in all of the WWE around the time that Randy Orton committed arson and burnt down the Wyatt family compound. There was a time when that was awesome, but a few weeks later, it felt like nothing because it lost its momentum. Now, the Punjabi prison match is at a place where it can't really lose any more momentum. It can only gain steam. So there's still 2 weeks till Battleground, and there's a good chance that they can pick it up from where it is right now. And then maybe the U.S. title might feel like less of a thing going into Battleground.
I've been listening to Hardcore Holly's book, The Hardcore Truth, and one of the things that he was talking about in that book is that the heel's role is to get the babyface over, right? So the bad guy, he can be the bad guy all he wants, but if the babyface, if the good character doesn't have a purpose, doesn't have something to overcome, that means nothing. You know, you mentioned Randy during the Bray Wyatt thing. The reason we were interested in that, despite the fact that it was Randy Orton, was because the purpose was, I'm going to get back at Wyatt. And once I do that, I have completed my purpose. Whereas now, what's the purpose? Because if the whole thing is it's USA, USA, you literally have a United States champion on that show. So what ends up being is you have the anti-American thing here. Like, why is AJ not cutting a promo on Jinder on SmackDown? That makes no sense at all. You literally have a person talking about against the US.
Just major fundamental USA problem on SmackDown Live right now.
There really is.
Three feuds that are using the America thing, right? And the only one that should be using it is the US Championship, I think, because it's the freaking US Championship. But when you got Jinder and Randy doing the USA rah rah rah, then you've got John Cena and Rusev with the flag match, and now you've got Kevin Owens, Face of America versus AJ Styles. They need to give this nationalism thing a rest because it's really bogging down the show and making every feud way too similar. Like that, I think a lot of it just like comes down to booking, right? Randy Orton, sometimes he becomes Blandy Borton, and Jinder Mahal, hasn't quite found his footing yet. But when you don't book these guys to do exciting things, it's difficult for us to care. And it really seems like they're phoning in the WWE Championship scene. They're not making it feel as important as they could be. And a lot of that is just booking and writing.
And if you look at the reasoning behind the WWE Championship feud, it's more Randy Orton versus the Singh brothers than it is Randy Orton versus Jinder Mahal, because it's, oh, you disrespected my family on Father's Day, you almost beat up my dad. That was the Singh brothers that did that, not Jinder Mahal. Jinder Mahal was just trying to wrestle a match, and yet he's the one that's feuding with Randy Orton. It's very all over the place.
It goes back to what I just said. The problem here, people keep looking at Jinder. It's not Jinder. The babyface here, like the good guy in the feud, has nothing to do. There's no purpose
Jinder,
for Randy
they're making
Orton.
him say the same exact thing over and over again. They could add a little variety to this promo.
It's Randy's job. Like, I'm not saying Randy as the human being. It's whoever the hell is writing for Randy, whatever purpose. It's his job to stop the heel from saying that. Yeah,
he wasn't even on this week.
He should probably do that too. But I was talking about that Hardcore Holly book, The Hardcore Truth. I'm actually listening to that on Audible. And as you mentioned at the top of the show, if you want to listen to a couple of audiobooks, and if you're listening to us, odds are you're either on the road, you're at work, but our podcast is about an hour and 20 minutes, give or take, right? Depending on the mistakes and the off-topic banter we get to. Now, if you go to audibletrial.com/bythat, you can actually get yourself a 30-day free trial of the service, plus an audiobook of your choosing. So if you actually, maybe want to send me a tweet, you get that Hardcore Holly book. We can talk about that on Twitter, ByteThatCast, or even send us an email to bytethatcast@gmail.com. We can talk about that. Probably going to get to the Justin Roberts book, because I know that many podcasts, including the New Age Insiders, have interviewed him, and I believe that audiobook is narrated by himself. So once again, if you want to get the benefit of the 30-day free trial and a free audiobook, that's audibletrial.com/bytethat.
Yeah, I dived into the audiobook world this week myself. Game of Thrones is coming back this Sunday, so I started listening to the first book, and I'm enjoying it. So audiobooks, it's a cool thing. It helps switch up the variety of just because I listen to a ton of podcasts, so it's kind of neat to listen to a book. For I like the difference. A little bit of variety.
Yeah. It's crazy. I remember a time people saying, audio is going to die, radio is going to die because video is all the rage. Here we are doing a podcast talking about audiobooks that are over 10 hours long sometimes.
People drive, and audio's great.
Now, if we get to the Jetsons era and cars are gone, then we got ourselves a problem, and then we're screwed as well. So let's hope.
Hey, that's why we're in video, man. Live.
That is true. And with that, speaking of video, Keith, I'm going to take it to you first, buddy, because I know you love that WWE 24. It seems that whenever they put out a new one, it doesn't even matter the topic at this point. The WWE production staff is so damn good at getting you to care about a story, to caring about the character. And then you talk about Kurt Angle, who, number one, we got to see live at the Hall of Fame this year. Number two, he's back. And then number three, we know the story he's had, right, related to the world of addiction. This man should not be alive, considering the amount of painkillers he consumed. Over 4 broken necks. 4. This is insane. How many human beings have you heard that they broke their neck 4 times yet still walk? The man should be paralyzed, but he's not.
And won a gold medal with a broken freaking neck as well.
Not a broken neck. Broken freaking neck. Rollins, did you break your neck? Did you break your neck? No, Rollins. You don't call yourself freaking. Kurt Angle freaking does. So, Keith, what did you think about the Kurt Angle documentary on the network?
Yeah, if you don't know, after Raw on Monday, the WWE published a new 24 WWE Kurt Angle, and man, was it good. It was a roller coaster of emotion. There was highs, there was lows. I almost started crying near the end because, man, Kurt Angle's had a rough life, and you can't help but respect the man, especially after the story they told in 24. It's a really good watch, and the thing that really surprised me the most was just how much old WWE footage that they had there that you'd never really seen before. It makes you wonder, like, wow, was a camera following Kurt Angle at all times? And what other footage is there out there that we've just never seen? And I want to know.
Meetings that had tape to it that was very surprising.
But Kurt Angle, WWE 24, definitely worth a watch. It's a hell of a story, and just to see what Kurt Angle's gone through in his career, like Juan mentioned, he's had 4 broken necks in his life, and when he's talking about the details of how he got through that, they don't hold anything back. Like it's some really dark stuff there, and it's very incredible that Kurt Angle is still alive.
And also, you'll almost crap your pants when you see Vince McMahon tell the cameraman to get out of the room.
Oh my God. Jeez.
Just like, get out.
You saw Vince McMahon, the boss there. Like,
yeah,
not
that's
the
one of the rare times
on screen one. You
that's
saw
one
him,
of the rare
businessman.
times that we as the fans got to see, like, off-screen Vince. And holy crap, I almost walked out of my living room, man, just seeing that. I was like, okay, man, okay, cool.
Now, this was a lot longer than a half an hour. Didn't they used to be only 30 minutes?
The last couple have been a full hour. Like the Rollins one was an hour, the Balor one was an hour. So they've set a precedent. And hey, as somebody that loves these 24s, make them 24 hours.
Way more than that. Story could not be told in a half an hour.
No.
I was very impressed with it. I mean, WWE editing production, they are always top notch, and this was no exception. This is a story that is many years in the making. I remember all of us talking when Kurt Angle initially left WWE in like 2006 or 2005, whenever it was, and just wondering, what exactly happened, what really went down. We kind of just, from all the wrestling news and rumor sites, trying to gather that, to see it documented here. It's like, man, I've been waiting a long time to get the full story of this. So
you got to see Byte this.
Yeah, Byte this, or where our namesake came from. So it was just absolutely fantastic. I'm not gonna lie, it got very emotional at the end there. I got a little teary-eyed. not ashamed to admit it. This was an excellent special, and everybody who has the network should see it.
No, I agree 500%. As somebody that works in mental health, and I know people that are no longer with us due to the world of addiction and mental health. Seeing a story like Kurt Angle is very inspirational, and they didn't go into a lot of details. Like Kurt Angle has been on the Stone Cold podcast, I believe. He's been in a lot of podcasts where he's gone into deeper details, and like the man should not be alive. I can't stress that enough. Just look up any podcast with Kurt Angle, and that story deserves to be heard. I think there were also in an Edge and Christian one where I could be making that up, but I love the personal element of it. I think that it's great to see him back. You know, it's great to see all these Attitude Era guys be able to have one more chance to shine. There's not a lot of people that can come back to the company now, right? And has a big impact, because it seems like every guy that should come back is back in some form, right? So it's cool to see Kurt Angle walking backstage, and he bumps into Alexa Bliss and AJ Styles, and it's like, oh right, he knows AJ from TNA. He's been in TNA. He was in TNA longer than he was in WWE, and it's crazy to think about. Like in the 5 to 7 years that he was in the WWE, he's one of the greatest of all time. And it was not even a decade that the man was in a company. It's insane. Also, like talking about the clips that you mentioned, Keith, they show clips from developmental, like Edge and Albert, and
you
all
saw
these guys
Kurgan training. When was the last time you saw Kurgan?
The amount of footage that has to be lying in some kind of hard drive, oh my God, I would love to get access to that. I would pay all the money
to be able to just go through it.
Yeah, way more than you ever thought. Because, I mean, they did take a lot from the WrestleMania 19 footage. Like, there was a documentary about the build-up to that. But then, like Keith mentioned, that you see footage of, like, the creative team talking about things about Kurt Angle, and you're like, whoa, like, they were actually filming stuff back then? Like, who had the forethought that they were going to document any of that? Especially because, you know, I mean, even though it's kind of past the time where kayfabe was a super protected thing, we've still come very far from what it used to be.
Like, think about that. Footage is probably 16 years old, 17 years old, and we've never seen it. It's crazy.
Oh, man. And we're probably, here's the sad part, just like we may not know if aliens exist or not, we'll never get to see all of that footage. We're going to die. We're going to fade away from this world, not seeing all the footage that the WWE never publicized.
I'm going to apply to be an archivist at the libraries, the footage.
Ryan, you better hook us up if you get that job.
I will infiltrate.
That's a good idea.
And I'm revealing my master plan on live audio. Smart.
Let's do it, man.
The only way.
The last thing we're going to get to here is talk about Fire Pro Wrestling World. So that was released as an early access game on Monday, 9 p.m. Eastern. So that came out during Raw, which it's a little questionable, admittedly so. And for those who don't know, Fire Pro Wrestling is a simulation-based wrestling game that very much looks like a Super Nintendo game. It was actually a Super Nintendo game, and the last one that came out as an official title was Fire Pro Wrestling Returns, which came out on the PlayStation 2. There was an Xbox Live Arcade game, but that was non-canon. Yeah, people don't really talk about that. So this one is an early access game that brings up a lot of the elements that people love from the PS2 game, and it's incomplete. So it has online. You can create characters. It has Steam Workshop support. So what that means is that if you have the game on computer, you can actually go to an online store that is free of charge. Like you don't need to pay for all the downloadable characters. They're created by people, and then you can have a roster of over 800 guys. Like the game's been out 2 days. Over 1,300 creations are already available. Over 1,300. You can download collections. And Ryan, I don't know if you know about this. Do you know about the CPU logic thing?
No.
Okay, so this is what is going to blow many people's minds. A big deal about this game is not even playing the game. It's watching CPU play. The reason is that, say you make Ryan, in the game, right? You can actually adjust per percentage on every single move. Every single move. What is the percentage of times that Ryan will actually try to do this move and do this move and try to go for the finisher? So you can have a character that will play as the actual superstar. So even as simple as a kick, you can say, okay, so he's going to try to go for the diamond cutter only 5% of the time
So if
because
you
that
got
takes up
the
more
Young
stamina.
Bucks, the super kick is going to be turned way up.
Yeah, it's going to be 99%. The problem is they're going to run out of stamina. But basically, the creation suite is insane. If you haven't,
Goldberg, spear, jackhammer.
Yeah, or Brock
Yeah.
Lesnar, German suplex,
Yeah,
German
just
so much.
variations.
This is amazing. I'm sold already.
Yeah,
But
it's really good.
It gets even cooler because the game does have online play, but it's not just player versus player. You can set up online games where you do CPU versus CPU. So you can program these AIs and then send it out and face other people's AIs and see if you have like the better programmed character. It's really neat.
Yeah, so I'm super excited to play it more. Keith and I did a stream on the channel. You can check that out on YouTube. If you're listening to us on iTunes, we strongly encourage you to subscribe to the podcast channel.
And I don't know if Juan's published it, but if you go to our Facebook feed, you can see us go one-on-one.
Oh yeah, I got to publish that. So I will
yes, you
publish
do.
that very soon.
Spoilers.
Yeah,
I won. And it's the only thing I've ever won. And
Yeah.
I feel so good about it.
It's so good. The last thing I'll say, it's basically a puzzle game. Don't treat it like a SmackDown. It's a puzzle game and a fighting game. So don't expect to go in being very good. You're gonna get your ass kicked. I did badly, and you're gonna want to get better as one guy. Because like the finishers are not done the same way for everybody. So there's a lot of stamina. There's a lot of systems that play into a factor. So if you get good as CM Punk, you may be terrible as another guy because you don't know how to really balance things out to wear down your opponent. So it's awesome. You can do 4-player online, 8-player locally. It's out for $20. Once it's out of early access, it'll be released on the PS4. Nothing about Xbox so far, but it's not going to be out for a while on the PS4 because they don't have an early access program.
You can defend titles against people online, right?
Yeah. And right now the workshop support is not there for rings because you can create your own ring. You can create your own championship,
But
your
you
own
just can't
stables.
share it yet.
Yeah, you can't share the ring and all that, but it's been out for 2 days, and the online's been pretty good. Not perfect. There was one time where Keith and I were gonna play AJ versus CM Punk, I think it was, and I ended up playing as the guy that Keith chose and vice versa. So I was AJ, even though Keith chose AJ for him. Weird freaking glitch, but it's an early access game.
Kind of amazing.
Yeah. So if you guys have any questions about Fire Pro or something, either let us know in the comments on the YouTube version or send us an email, bytethatcast@gmail.com. And by the way, because we are streaming live on YouTube every time of the podcast, one of the ways that you can make sure you're part of the podcast is by donating via Super Chat. Super Chat is something that when you donate, it actually gets highlighted for everybody in the chat. We actually get a pop-up on the video version as well. So it doesn't even have to be a question. It can be a statement. It can be something incredible, something you want to talk about, or you can really just bring back the debate of which kind of French fry is best, and then we can say why you're wrong. Another thing you can do is send us a question every single week. You can head on over to Twitter, ByteThatCast. Use the hashtag AskBT. You can send us an email, bytethatcast@gmail.com, or drop a comment on the YouTube version of the show once we are not live, because the live chat does not get archived, so we would not be able to see any of those. So with that being said, Keith, my brother,
Yes.
do you have questions for us?
I do. But first, the best fry is still poutine, and that's the only answer I'll accept. But nonetheless, our first question comes from Snipin' Sexton, who asks, "Hey guys, imagine instead of the Titus brand, there's a Juan brand, a Keith brand, and a Ryan brand. Each of you can choose one superstar to tag with, one to languish in the cruiserweight division, and one female superstar, and then decide who would reign supreme on your brand. Have fun with this." All right,
Okay.
so whose brand is going first?
Okay, so only one member of a tag team, one female superstar, cruiserweight, was it?
You choose a superstar you would like to tag with.
Tag with.
Okay.
You choose a superstar to tag with, a superstar in the cruiserweight division, and one female superstar for your brand. These three people represent the Juan brand.
Got it.
Who are these people?
Okay, so we're talking about the Juan brand, so I guess I'll kick things off. I'll tag with Braun, because I ain't got to do anything.
That's my guess too, or that was who I was going to choose too.
It's the only option, man.
It is.
Like, between ambulances, I get the feeling like Scott Steiner's going to come out every time, so I'm going to be like hyped up, because maybe the dog face gremlin's going to be not going to be too far behind him.
Yeah, and you get show-me's. You can like go to show-me's after your match. Shoney's.
Sure, because you were saying you showed me.
Yeah, I don't know what that is. But,
oh my God, have you never seen that video of Rick and Scott Steiner's Shoney's? Their restaurant?
My Little Shoney's?
No.
Oh my God.
Question mark?
Oh my God, okay, we have an adventure to go on once we go off the air.
So regarding females, I'll actually choose a trick answer and say Maria, because by getting Maria, I'm going to get some power of love, because I'm going to get me my Kanellis. So I'm going to have,
I see what you
just picture my stable. Yeah, be careful there. My stable so far is going to be Braun Strowman and the power of love. And logically, when you look at the Cruiserweight division, either it's going to be for me Neville or TJP, who's going to teach Braun the art of dabbing. And then it's going to be the power of dabbing love. Of dab, no, it's gonna be dab love. Dab love. Dude, that's my brand, you bastard. You don't mess with my brand.
No, it's a terrible brand.
Yeah, I want nothing to do with the Juan brand, but the Ryan brands, or Ryan worldwide, because it's not about the brand anymore. So for my tag partner, I'm gonna choose Big Cass, right? So he just got rid of his tag partner. Maybe I'm more capable than Enzo in the wrestling ring. Maybe. Just maybe. Not on the microphone, that's for sure. So I'm going to take Big Cass with his sweet new theme music. It's my favorite ever. It's just amazing. And my cruiserweight that I'm going to choose is, somebody else. I'm a pale guy. I sunburn a lot. I could totally relate to this guy. Jack Gallagher is going to be my cruiserweight guy. This guy has got a ton of potential and just isn't getting the opportunities anymore. So I'd like to take him under my wing. I'd like to represent him and give him more opportunities. And my female superstar, I'm going to take Asuka, because the second she hits the main roster, she's going to whoop some ass. So I want to be there on the ground floor when she hits the main roster.
All right. Because Juan took Braun, I'm going to switch up my thought process a little bit here. So instead of making Poshik Worldwide just, hey, these are the best wrestlers, we need a gimmick to it. So male wrestler, you need to have a king. You need Jimmy King as your male. Jimmy King.
No. You go with Jimmy King.
Yeah, Jimmy King as my male wrestler. For my cruiserweight, you need the king of the cruiserweights to have Neville in there. And then Charlotte should be my female. So you have two kings and a queen. I have a court.
Juan's court.
So thank you for the question. Our next one comes in from the true Prince of Pro. Some more patron love being sent there. Thank you again. And he asks, what other things do you want the fashion police to dress up as? And also, do you guys believe in ghost aliens?
Baby steps. I want to prove ghosts and aliens separately before we start worrying about them together. But, if ghosts end up being real, then there's a good chance ghost aliens are real. So, I think they're really doing a good job of waiting for the right time to do each different gimmick. They wait till they're in Texas before they do the Walker Texas Ranger thing, which is awesome. And when they were doing the Miami Vice thing when they were in Florida, I'm trying to think. I mean, they haven't done Mounties yet. So when they do inevitably go to Canada, that needs to be a thing that happens.
I
So
feel
are they going to be the
discriminated
shining
against.
stars in Puerto Rico?
I don't know what other type of law enforcement. I mean, if they go to London, wait, they already did the London thing. How do they not dress up as the guards or whatever?
I would say Men in Black,
Oh.
but
They actually did do London Cops, though, I believe. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Men in Black would be kind of amazing. I don't think they would do it for different reasons, but I think that would be hilarious because how insane would it be that they try to get some real questions or some crazy thing and they blank that person's memory and then for the rest of the show. See, this is why I can't book wrestling, guys. Because I would just do the dumbest
You're
things.
0-2 right now. So I don't understand why, but the first thing that came to my mind when thinking about this was Tom Selleck. And they should do something like Magnum PI related.
Oh my
And that's all I
goodness,
got.
what was... No, there was another show. No, there wasn't like a Law and Order. There was another investigation type show with some old dude. Yes,
Columbo.
No, there was another old dude. There were a lot
Was
of
it
old
another
dudes.
old dude?
There
This
was a
is
lot
going
of
to
old
kill
dudes.
me. Okay,
Are you-
people on Twitter, please help me out after the show. Name investigative related shows with old dudes. Safe for work pictures, please.
And Ghost Aliens, I'm with Ryan, where let's prove ghosts are real and aliens are real first, then we'll deal with the ghost aliens. So thank you for the question. Our next one comes in from, and I hope I say this right, Zarafi404, who asks, if you were wrestlers, what would your finishers be?
Super kick to the ass. No, I'll think of an actual answer now, but that's how I would finish Keith off.
Well, anyway, all right.
Oh my
Yeah.
god, no.
I'll just jump in and say, if I could actually wrestle, it would be our Truth and Consequences, or the Osaka Street Cutter, which is a very similar move. Just ignoring one, just dying in the background right now.
Do we
Because-
have an HR department?
Yeah,
Because I
we
feel
need
like
one.
I need to have a
So
talk.
yeah, our Truth does this Truth and Consequences move, which is like a suplex into a stunner, and it looks way cooler than his actual finisher, and that would just be a way more badass finisher. So I would totally do that.
And I could see that being realistic for you, totally. But I've always been a fan of cutters, so I would say I would go for some form of cutter of the diamond variety, one might say, or the RKO variety, maybe even of the ace variety. Who knows? We could mix it up and just make any form of cutter. And
Ace Crusher.
yeah, and because Juan lost his ability to talk,
No,
I'm
I
moving on
can
to the next
I can
question.
answer mine now. I can answer mine now. I'm back.
All right,
I'm
you've
back.
got one shot. You've
Can
got
you-
one shot to
Don't
redeem
talk-
yourself.
Don't
here.
talk about shots after that, please. What I will say, I love the Orange Crush, which is like the suplex into basically a power bomb pinning position. That or Falcon Zero. I don't know why. I've always liked that move, and I already like Fandango, so that combination there is awesome. And Keith, I'm sorry.
I might forgive you, but thank you for the question. Our next one comes in from Bottom Text, who asks, what do you think, or who do you think a WWE competitor is that needs to be elevated, or needs to be elevated to a higher platform? And who do you think is a competitor that is on a higher platform and is beginning to fall behind a little bit? Thank you for the question. Keep up the good work.
So who needs to be elevated? I
Where
think
they
the
are
Miz definitely needs to be elevated to a higher spot on the card. And I think that's coming down the road. So I'm pretty hopeful for that one, but he's certainly my choice of who in a year do I want to see as the main champion. It would be the Miz. And who do I think is kind of falling behind or slowing down? I think Randy Orton kind of needs to step aside from that main title picture, especially now, and start kind of flirting with that mid card area for a while. So those are my two picks.
Mine for who needs to be elevated is usually Xavier Woods. It seems weird because the New Day is not exactly in a bad position, but he never gets the credit that he deserves as a wrestler, right? It's always Kofi and Biggie, and then Xavier's somewhere in the background. And Xavier's the one that does like the DDTs and some of the other moves. But I think there's a lot of potential for Xavier as a singles competitor while still being in the New Day. I mean, if the Shield did it, why can't they? And it seems weird that they've not done that. I don't know. It's because maybe they don't need it. You know, like don't split the New Day up like or segment the New Day. Now, as far as this may seem like a weird option because it seems like this guy's already in there. I'm just tired of Bray Wyatt. And I get it. Bray Wyatt loses a lot. So it seems weird for me to say, hey, this guy's up there, bring him down. I'm tired of the formula. Even going back to Great Balls of Fire, he won. So freaking what? What? So seriously, does that matter? Like you cut these insanely stupid promos. He's really good at it. But at some point, they lose meaning, they lose purpose when inevitably it's just move on to the next storyline. And if we're talking about Jinder and Randy and how that doesn't progress, Bray Wyatt is the definition of lack of progression. So that is the guy I would just either repackage, and I'm not saying repackage is like remove Bray Wyatt, the character, evolve Bray Wyatt. The Undertaker had many evolutions as The Undertaker. So can Wyatt.
We could have a whole podcast about Bray Wyatt and what's wrong with his character.
Yeah.
I mean, at least The Undertaker tried to do things when he tried to like capture Stephanie McMahon and stuff. Why doesn't Bray Wyatt do anything like that? He just talks and loses or wins and then eventually loses that feud that he won the match in. It's pointless.
Yeah, because I agree with your needs to go away for a bit, Juan. I'll go right into the Bray Wyatt thing. Bray Wyatt is a character that should have mystique built around him, but just being thrown into the show almost aimlessly every single week has destroyed every bit of his presence at this point. But if he went away, even just for a couple months, and they created this thing like it's almost very similar to when a superstar goes away to the indies and builds something for himself and then comes back and there's this whole thing around him. But imagine that without going to the indies, and that's great for Bray Wyatt. As far as who needs to step up, I want to see Rusev go to that next level so badly. I want to see Rusev be a huge deal, but it just, whenever Money in the Bank felt like the time when Rusev was coming back for this injury, it felt like the time that it was supposed to happen.
Wow.
But now he's in a flag match against John Cena, and boy,
there's life after the flag match.
Yeah, but it feels like a stopping. It feels like a road bump or a roadblock into the line where you had all of the momentum going for Rusev.
He's just going to be the stereotype.
Another pick for me is definitely Big E. I would love to see achieve like main event level.
Agreed.
Yeah, that would not be a bad one at all.
So thank you for the question. Our final question of this week's show comes from Joseph G, who asks, not wrestling related, but are you guys bigger fans of Marvel or DC?
It's a weird one for me. I care more about DC, but prefer the Marvel movies, if that makes sense. I like the DC characters more, like Batman and Batman is the one that I really care about the most. But I love the Batman universe.
And everyone else.
Yeah.
Batman and everybody around him. I don't care for Superman. I think the Avengers, I stopped. I didn't even watch the last Avengers movie just because it's such a predictable formula that it worked because they make monies, but it's not for me right now.
Yeah. I am not huge into comic books, so as far as the movies, man, like I'd say my favorite superhero is Batman, but if I had to pick one, I'd probably pick Marvel because overall they just have more interesting superheroes and better movies for the most part. But I am just so sick of superhero stuff. Like it just needs to go. It has X-Pac heat with me. It just needs to go away. Like I'm so over it. I just don't care about superheroes anymore. I pretty much just stopped watching the movies unless it was Batman related, and I saw like the Avengers. But yeah, I haven't seen the second one. I haven't seen the Iron Man sequels, the Thor sequels. I heard Wonder Woman's good, but it's not a priority.
I'll get it on Blu-ray.
Yeah. As somebody that still watches all of those movies, if we lived in this perfect world where everything was awesome, everything was great, both Marvel and DC were firing on all cylinders and just cranking out the hits over and over again, I would have to lean towards DC. I like the content of it more. Like those guys mentioned, Batman is probably my favorite superhero. I think they can tell more interesting stories with people like Superman. They're trying so hard to make Aquaman a thing. The Suicide Squad would be cool if it was a good movie. They have way better base material than Marvel, because I've never been a fan of how clean everything is in the Marvel universe. Like everything's so happy-go-lucky. This is your generic superhero template movie. And I'm of the mind that the Marvel movies currently are more than that. I'm not sick of the Marvel movies. They're the big fun summer action movies, and I appreciate them for that. But in this world we live in, where I consume the Marvel and DC movies, I've tried getting into the comic books before, and that's just not a fight I can fight. It's not something I'm interested in. I have to go with Marvel because God, DC's put out some stinkers.
The thing is, I feel like it's just gotten to the point where they just got this little, they're cranking their machine, and comics are going in one part of the machine, and movies are just getting spat out the other end.
But on the Marvel side of things, those movies are good.
I've heard Logan's very good, so that might be the one I actually
have that in my living room for like the past 3 weeks, and I've yet to watch it.
Yeah, Logan is a fantastic movie. Yeah, that might even like Guardians of the Galaxy.
But for the most part, I feel like it's just like, it seems like it's this business plan, and they're just cranking out movies, and where's like the inspiration and the love, and it seems very just systematic, and I don't know, but I've heard a lot of them are good movies, but it just seems like it's this business thing, and it's not coming from a place of like inspiration and passion.
It's true, but on the other side of the fence, you have DC cranking out turds like the Suicide Squad. So I haven't seen Wonder Woman yet, and I've heard it's good.
If some of them are like a little more on the just like artificially created side, at least they seem to all generally be pretty good movies,
Yeah, because they have a formula, whatever works. If it makes them money, I guess they're gonna keep doing that. So folks, thank you so much for sending the questions. We always do appreciate that. It's great just to really get context of non-wrestling stuff every now and then, which is why we enjoy getting questions like this, and the French Fry one, because I still laugh about that every now and then. So with that being said, let's close off the show with the Byte That weekly update. We got a lot of stuff happening, especially during the month of August. So all I'm going to say, if you're not a Patreon yet, you may want to become a Patreon before July ends, because August is going to be pretty hot and spicy.
Yes. A lot of those rewards are coming at the other half. So if you become a patron at the end of July, you'll get all those August rewards. So for the BT weekly update, first want to get to some stuff going over on the YouTube channel. I recently put up a video talking about Money in the Bank matches and other multi-man matches. How do they work? Just like magnets. How do they work, man? You can check that out now. That's up for everybody on YouTube. Patrons get early access to a video that's coming out this weekend for everybody else. Juan did a video about what's up with WWE? Why can't they build baby faces anymore? There seems to be a fundamental problem. So Juan dives into that. These two gentlemen podcasting with me did a Fire Pro World stream, and you can check that out on the YouTube channel now. It's about 2 hours long, so there's tons of gameplay in there. And a pro wrestling loot unboxing that Juan did is up on Facebook. Is that up now?
Yeah. People can check it out. I did a live Facebook video there. So, we're trying to like expand. I think that it's cool to do stuff live on YouTube, but I also know like Everybody's got a Facebook nowadays, so it's easily shareable. So I decided to do that there. We got a couple people hanging out, so you can check it out there. It'll be up on the YouTube channel much later on. So if you want to check out that unboxing, that's the place to watch it right now.
Showed me some of that stuff. It's super cool. So you got more reason than ever to go over to our Facebook page and smash that like button. So yeah, coming down the pike for Byte That in general, that secondary feed that Juan talked about, we're going to have Byte That Plus. That's going to have pay-per-view reviews as well as other content like Debate That's all in audio form. Those of you listening on the road, maybe you were listening to us on YouTube through like a headphone jack or whatever. We're going to save you the data. We're going to have a secondary podcast feed that's going to have all that extra content. And early August is going to be the start of our private shows for Patreons. It's going to be an exclusive Patreon show. So if you become a patron at the end of July, it'll process for August, so you'll be able to get access to that. So you want to make sure you get in before then, because you have to have had your pledge processed before you're able to get access to that. Finally, drop a review for us. It really helps out the show, whether it's on iTunes, Apple Podcasts, or Stitcher. Goes a long way in helping other people find us on the audio podcasting platform. And if you're listening on YouTube, hey, give this video a share, a like, and hit the subscribe button if you have not already. So that is going to do it for this week, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we will see you all next week.